And we're locked in. Max and Dave Van Auken here from the Locked In Sports Podcast. Cuzzo, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. How about you?
I'm doing very good. We have the Bucks Celtics. We'll timestamp this one. And the Warriors Rockets. So the Bucks are up 2-1 in the series. Golden State Warriors up 2-1 in the series. It's going to be a great couple of games here.
Yeah, it definitely is. We talked about it last show or the show before that. These Final Four of the East and Final Four of the West is what everyone's been waiting for, especially the Bucks Celtics and the Rockets Warriors. You can argue these should be the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, but how about that quadruple overtime Portland Denver game? That's just been like a really cool series. If you're a diehard basketball fan, I know no one on the East Coast, and if you're a football guy or a baseball guy, you don't care. But that Portland Denver series is awesome.
Yeah, because Damian Lillard is having a standout playoff run. And I think Jokić, who everyone was aware of and how talented he was, I had the pleasure of watching him live when I was covering the Magic game, and you really see how special he is. But like everything is magnified in the playoffs, in the postseason. Obviously, Damian Lillard's play, Kevin Durant's play, Kawhi Leonard's play, and now I think it's Jokic's coming out party in a way where it's starting to get like it's one thing to put up numbers in the regular season. And it's one thing to be special in the regular season. We've seen countless people do it. But if you can do it in the postseason, and if you can overcome adversity and you can overcome challenges or games that you may not or you shouldn't win, that's where you start to really get recognized. And I think that's what we're starting to see here with Jokić.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter, Larry Bird, these are all-timers, legendary, iconic players for their franchises. But, Michael Jordan doesn't have the most points ever in the NBA. Derek Jeter doesn't have the most home runs. Larry Bird's stats to other players are, not as good. But when it mattered, deep in their postseasons, at home, on the way, when you needed that win, that single, that three-point shot, or that defensive rebound the most, those guys stepped up in those situations, and that's why they are who they are.
Yeah, and that was actually kind of my off-script question for you here is, who would you compare, or what do you think Jokic's ceiling is? Because watching him live, he's such a young player, and when you see young players, you know they're going to develop, you know they're going to get better, but what do you think his ceiling is? Is this pretty much his ceiling, and it kind of depends on who he has around him, depending on how successful his career goes? Or do you think oh no, this guy has the potential to shake the whole league where he's a top 5 player in the NBA?
No, this is his ceiling.
Really?
I don't want to be 100%. And this is nothing negative or slight. He had a great season this year. Denver was the 2 seed, right? Jamal Murray and Gary Harris are their two, to me, their make or break players. You can see Jamal Murray in this Portland series, Max. I'm going to call it out. He's been better than Damian Lillard. He's just had a great 4-game run. And I think if Jamal Murray can take that next step, Denver can become a championship contender team. If not, Jokić has to be, and this is a number 2. He does. If you want to be a top-end championship contender team, Jokić is a 2. His stats are great, but defensively, minutes, he's just he doesn't have, to me, the body type, or he doesn't have the, go-to shot. Like, he can't create his own shot whenever you need. Like, 20 seconds left and you need a bucket. You don't really pass it to Jokić. Like, he's just the guy who creates everything for you. He's almost a point center, which is great. He's awesome. He's a budding NBA All-Star. No slight to him, but this is it. This is you're getting the best of Jokić you're going to get.
Okay. I see what you're saying, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but the one thing I would say, though, is that he is so young that there's a lot of skills he can develop and work with as the years go on. So he may not have a signature go-to shot right now, like the Dirk one-legger or the Kareem hook or like the James Harden step back, but I think he has so many different assets. That's what makes him so good. But if he were to create a signature shot, I mean, he doesn't have the NBA body, but he has the NBA size, if that makes sense. So, like, not very athletic, not very long. Well, he is long, but he doesn't have like a ripped, chiseled body. He's just a very, very big dude with lanky arms. I mean, there's a couple skills that I think he can develop where it will be insanely hard to guard if he can, like, make that turnaround shot at the consistency or like the rate that Dirk would make it or like a KD would make it. I know those are the two top examples here, but just for an example, I think he still has room to improve a signature shot.
I hear you, but okay. I just, this season he averaged 20 points a game, 10, 11 rebounds a game and 7 assists. Like these are you can, if LeBron has a bad shooting night, that's a LeBron type of night. This is a Kevin Durant type of night, but those guys usually put up 27, 30 points a game. So like you don't go, you can't get better than that. There's not two players in this league that get 13 points and 10 assists or 14. Even Russell, who gets the triple doubles, he averages around 10 and 10 on those assists and rebounds. Like he barely gets it over. So I think Jokić, this is his ceiling, and there's nothing, dude. 20, 10 and 7. That's awesome. That's why they were the 2 seed. And actually, he played healthy. I did look up. He just played 80 games, which is a big caveat to his career. If he can play 80, 78 games, and Jamal Murray and Gary Harris can keep on elevating their careers, Denver is a legit team. They have a great home court advantage on so many different teams because you have to fly out to Denver and, maybe some NBA players partake in something there in the Colorado area. I'm just going to leave that one alone. But I think Nikola Jokić is a great NBA player, and this is what you're going to get.
And the one thing I want to kind of dive even further in depth with this conversation is I think Jokić is like one of the very rare centers that elevates others, obviously because of his passing ability.
Great point.
Because he's not ball dominant, but he gets the most touches because the offense runs through him. And Joel Embiid doesn't elevate others. DeMarcus Cousins never elevated others. Dwight Howard put up insane numbers, but I don't think he really elevated others. I just think he was so dominant. Shaq was so dominant. But I think Jokić has a very rare ability in that center position to elevate others. And I think that's something special. And like to your point, there's nothing wrong with not being a top 5 player. But could I make the argument now, Dave, because you touched on something? 80 games per season. Well, 80 games this season. And someone like Joel Embiid, for example, who most would consider the best center in the league, has to have like 6 treatments a day before he plays. Obviously, we know his injury history where he's missed more games than he's played. Of course, when he's on the court, he's definitely the best center. But availability, if anyone's preached this more than you, I don't know, is that's such an underrated thing is availability. So could I make the argument he is the best center in the league because how inconsistent Joel Embiid is to play?
100%. And I would even maybe lean that way because you know how much I harp on availability is the best ability. And that's why you just with the first question with Jokić, how much better can he get? He's the best center probably in the world. If he stays healthy and Denver is a surprise 2 seed they're tied with Denver right now and they have 2 games in Denver against Portland. I would think if I had to pick one, you said, hey, Dave, who's winning? I would pick Denver probably in game 7, to be honest. So you have probably Denver going into the Western Conference Finals. And, I know this is a whole other subject for a different time. And there is something I do want to talk about the New York Knicks coming up. Kevin Durant might leave. Like if you're the 2 seed in the West, this is what the Lakers wanted to be, is to have their budding young players get better and just get nip at the heels of the Warriors. And then let the Warriors, the band will break up and then they will take over the West. And, we talked about, is it the Oklahoma City Thunder with George and Westbrook? Is it Dame and CJ in Portland? Or is it the Lakers if they get a big-time free agent? God, maybe it's the Denver Nuggets. Maybe we're just looking over them because Jokić isn't 6'8", chiseled and, likes rap music. You know what I mean? He's an old country boy, and people don't really know Jamal Murray. But I remember the podcast, Max, you and I did a year ago. I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, talking about great young players, and one of them on our list, or at least I remember was on mine, was Jamal Murray. I've been a big-time fan of his game. It's just 2019 in the NBA. You need to be able to dribble and shoot and pass, and he can do all that. So his future is, limitless. I love Jamal Murray as the best player, and Jokić can be a great second-best player. And last little note, and I'll let you take it away from this, the 2 best old centers that used to pass and let the ball go through them, 2 names I'm going to throw out to Vlade Divac and Arvydas Sabonis.
Yep. Yeah, and it's like 2019. You don't think of the center position because everyone shoots threes. It's all about transition. It's more about schemes. It's a guard-centric league right now, especially with the way the rules are adjusted. And we've seen so many small ball lineups. Of course, the premier lineup we all think of is the Hamptons 5 with the Golden State Warriors when they decided to go small with Draymond Green. And what's so interesting to me about Jokić, and pretty much the last thing I'll hit on here, is he does not feel like a center. Like, okay, he is a center, but he's a 2019 center. He doesn't feel like a liability on either end because he can move. I'm not saying he's fast, but he can move. He can slide his feet, and like the passing ability, the ability to read an offense from the center position like a point guard, and he can hit the three, and he can hit that shot consistently. So he's not the type of, okay, come on, guys, I understand he's a talented center, but the way the league is moving, he's not that valuable. He's found a way to become extremely valuable even in the center position in 2019. So that's what I think is extremely unique about him.
Wow, Cuzzo, if I haven't said this once, I'll say it a million times. This is the greatest sports podcast in the world. We just commentated on Combat Night, which I just listened to. We were just insanely great, calling out Kimuras and talking about gyms and making funny jokes the whole time. We talked about Game of Thrones and the Avengers movie, which the last Game of Thrones episode was amazing. I loved it. Underrated episode.
It was amazing.
Then we just talked about Nikola Jokić for 7 minutes and 40 seconds because we're top notch.
I appreciate it. Hey, that Game of Thrones episode,
I loved it.
Yeah, I'm about to say, at this point, if you listen to the podcast, you know Dave and I are hardcore Marvel fans, Game of Thrones fans, Walking Dead fans, pretty much good television fans. I think that was one of my favorite episodes, and it wasn't necessarily a positive one. Like, I loved it. I remember I had to watch it an hour after because Olivia and I don't know what we were doing. We were like watching some type of, she was slammed with college work. So we had to wait, and I was hooping. So then I came back and I talked to my dad, and he's like, yeah, it's a sad episode. And I'm like, okay, you didn't really spoil it, but now at least I know the tone. So then I'm watching it, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the tragic, sad part to happen. And obviously I know what it is now, but after watching it, I'm like, that was still a really good episode. Like, it was sad, but it wasn't to the point where I didn't like the episode.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I loved it. I loved the first half with so much camaraderie, and they just had to do that. They just had the biggest action scene in TV show history. They kind of had to wrap some stuff up, some loose ends, build characters up, build relationships again. And then when you kind of thought, okay, maybe this is a whole building episode, major things happen, big things happen. It kind of was surprising. I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. So a lot of big stuff. Gosh, Game of Thrones, couple episodes left, maybe the greatest TV show in the history. And there's only a couple games left in the NBA postseason for the second round. We never even get into we did a lot of West Coast, I felt like. Max, I really want to talk about probably the best player alive for the last 20 days. And that's got to be, to me, Kawhi Leonard. Holy crap. His stats so far in this second round, his field goal percentage. That's what I admired from LeBron James's game. He was just so efficient. Passed it when he needed to the right guy, not the wrong guy. It drives me crazy. I saw Jimmy Butler do this, and I don't know if you know the exact play I'm talking about. He dribbled the ball for 14 seconds. There was like 2 seconds in the shot clock. Instead of him pulling the bad shot, he passed it to Joel Embiid behind the three-point line with now 1 second in the shot clock. Of course, Joel has to shoot it, and it's a bad shot. It's a bad possession. Kawhi doesn't do that. His defensive on both sides of the ball. Max, I don't know how you feel about it. I know I'm maybe flip-flopping back and forth, but just right now, Kawhi Leonard, there's just no man alive playing better basketball than him.
Yeah, no, it's weird. You and I got into it at the Combat Night when we were on the drive up. Should have been a podcast. We were talking about so many things, and we were talking about like the rankings. And there's a different ranking scenario, right? You have the postseason rankings and then the top 5 basketball players in the world. Now, that postseason rankings can certainly influence the regular rankings, just the normal top 5 rankings. But it's not everything, but it's something. So based off that criteria, I would say that Kawhi Leonard probably moved up another notch for me because I had LeBron 1 still. I know I'm in the minority now, and I understand that, and I'm not in really disagreement. I won't put up an argument with it. I do get that I'm in the minority. Next season, as we've discussed in the past, will determine my final answer if I'm willing to give up LeBron's throne. Then I have KD, and then I had Giannis, Curry, Kawhi. And I think Kawhi right now may be able to jump Curry. Now, not legacy-wise, but just as of right now, the way he's able to, and you touched on it, that he's able to play on both ends of the floor, obviously. Him or Giannis as the best two-way player, I would probably still give it to Kawhi just off postseason success and experience. You can certainly make the argument for Giannis because of his ability, his athleticism, and his height is something you can't teach. But I've just seen Giannis use his defense so efficiently in the finals and get finals MVP against, in my opinion, the greatest player of all time in LeBron. So that's why I'm going to edge Kawhi for the better defender. And Dave, you hit on it. His efficiency is what's so outstanding to me, and that's what separates great from good. I love James Harden, but he's not extremely efficient. So that's why I
plays defense.
Yeah, and that's why I like Steph Curry better. That's why I like Kevin Durant better. Kawhi Leonard's getting to that notch, and that's why I think he may even be better than Giannis right now, is just because he can score on every multitude. He can shoot 3-point shots consistently and knock them down. That mid-range game has been compared to MJ-like. And he can finish at the rim. He's strong. Of course, his enormous hands where he can just kind of switch his shot in midair and it's no problem for him. And then, of course, the defensive end. So to me, I think you can make the argument he's a top 3 player in the world.
Okay. Well, for one, I gave us props 10 minutes ago talking about Nikola Jokić and the Game of Thrones. And now this time I got to get honest. One thing I think we do too much, and probably not even us, everyone does. So I'll put us with everyone. We rank and we rate them too much.
Yeah.
We probably should have waited to after this postseason because you're right. Let's just be honest. If Philly knocks them out and the series is 2-2, it's anyone's series. I would predict or I would guess the Raptors would win. They got 2 of the last 3 games at home and they got the best player alive maybe right now in this moment.
Right.
But my point is if the Raptors lose, Kawhi can't be in that top 3, top 4, maybe not even top 5 if you can't get out of the second round, heavily favored over the Sixers. And especially just with now, and if Giannis goes all the way to the finals, he's got to be in. You're a LeBron guy, so he's in for you. And if the Warriors win the whole thing, that's 4 championships for Curry, 3 for Durant. It's just so hard to go back and forth. And that's just, we didn't even mention one of the guys I fight for is Damian Lillard. What happened if Lillard, who is the underdog against the Thunder, they won? And what happened if he shocks me and beats Denver? Now he goes to the Western Conference Finals and maybe takes Warriors to game 6 or 7 and he averages 40. It's just, I think we just got to wait. We got to wait and see. For one thing we're lucky enough, Max, is that there's so many great players. And there's so many great players right now playing at their peak. I've never remembered a time that you can argue the 6th best player in the world is LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard or Steph Curry or James Harden. There's no wrong answer there. There's so many. And I'm a LeBron guy who I think is 6th or 7th in the world right now. And he still averaged 28, 8, and 8. He just had a really bad team effort, and that's why I put him down. If you don't make the playoffs, to me, you can't be in that top 3, top 5 spot. But I get your argument that he's up there, and I understand it. It's unbelievable. We're lucky enough, and we're watching every game live. It's just a great time to be in sports.
That's a great point. Those are all great points. And I would add to that is I feel like you said it. I think it was just earlier on this episode where there's people who put up better numbers and may seem like the better player, but winning just has so much to do with it. Like you just said, Kawhi could put up all these great numbers, but if Steph Curry wins his 4th title, and that's what I'm saying, I think he's almost getting overlooked because everyone's wondering where Kevin Durant's going. Guys, we have a guy that's about to win his 4th ring currently playing in the NBA and could win more if Kevin Durant stays. So, that's to my point. He may seem better than Steph right now, but how can you argue when Steph wins his 4th? What if he wins finals MVP, greatest shooter ever? So completely understand that point. And then the second thing I would say was, want to know what this feels like to me, this Toronto 76ers series? It really feels like LeBron in Cleveland versus Boston last year, where it's like I think the Raptors are a better unit, and Boston was probably a better unit. That's the one difference here. But the Boston had way more talent than Cleveland. The 76ers have way more talent than the Raptors. But the Raptors have the guy. Cleveland had the guy. So I feel like this is the true test for Kawhi. Like you said, if he can defeat the 76ers, who have 4 borderline all-star, well, 3 legitimate all-stars and a borderline 4th all-star, and his second best player is, who I like, Siakam, but he's not an all-star player. That's like another coming out party for him because, yes, he's the finals MVP, but he was with Pop. He was with Duncan. This is kind of like his own story, writing his own script in a way where if he could just get to the finals, it's a different accomplishment he hasn't done yet.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a pretty good point. One little caveat to give the King a little bit more credit. LeBron James did this on the road.
Yeah.
He was the road team in this 7-game series. Kawhi is actually at home, and he is the favorite. He should win. LeBron was almost the underdog. Boston was amazing last year. Their wins. Cleveland was just, what were they, the 4 seed or the 5 seed? Because remember they played Indiana with Victor.
Yeah.
So they had a tough run. Can I transition to basketball, but just not the playoffs?
Of course.
Okay. Max, my saying of 2019 is bring me Zion. We are around 8 days away from the NBA draft lottery. And I just can't talk about this enough. It's the most important night maybe of the sports in my pertaining to me and my New York Knicks for 2019. This is it. This sets up everything. And I know I'm all in with Zion, and I still am. But the more it's growing on me. And when something starts to build and build and build, and you're like, okay, there's something there. This John Morant, if we get the 2, and yes, I would be upset. But, I would still in the back of my mind like, wow, it's a point guard league. Look at these teams that are still alive in the postseason. Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry. There's just point guards galore everywhere. James Harden, Chris Paul, right? If the Knicks can get Morant, and I think there's enough free agents of the Durants, Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butlers, Nikola Vucevic. There's just tons of wings, DeMarcus Cousins and bigs. I think the point guard is becoming a little bit of that quarterback for the NFL, and you need that nowadays. You just can't win. If you're a Ravens fan or a Broncos fan, and if you don't have the quarterback, you can't win. I don't care how great the defense is for the Broncos. Max, do you have the Broncos in the playoffs this year?
No,
they don't have a quarterback. That's why. Their defense is amazing, though. So you need a point guard. So my last thing on this, I just want to get your take on it. Do you you're vibing my Morant at number 2 in the Knicks and still being okay with life? Or you're like all in, you got to get Zion, Dave?
I would lean towards all in on Zion. I really like Morant. I think he'll be a future all-star. And I'm not judging this off talent. I'm judging it off fit. And right now, you guys currently constructed need Zion Williamson. Whether you get Kevin Durant, whether you get Kyrie Irving, forget any free agent. I do like Dennis Smith Jr. Would I pick him over John Morant? No. But Zion's that once in a lifetime type talent where if you have an opportunity to get him number 1 and you don't, it definitely doesn't. It feels like a blowback. Even though Morant's very talented, I think he will be an all-star. I think he should go number 2. It's like having a LeBron James-esque. I'm not saying he's LeBron, but a LeBron James-esque type of guy in your draft. And you're like, damn, like we could have technically gotten him. The balls didn't fall our way. So whenever you don't land Zion, I feel like it's a bit of a disappointment. But John Morant's certainly a great number 2. But that being said, I'll credit our guy Colin Coward. He mentioned it today. And it really got me to thinking about it. And it's so funny. I was actually going to talk to you about it. So good thing you brought it up. It's interesting. So let's just say Kevin Durant chooses the New York Knicks, because I know you want that to happen. The world wants that to happen. So he chooses New York Knicks. Let's just say Kyrie Irving doesn't go because he kind of changes his mind daily, right? I don't think really anyone knows where they're going. But let's just say for argument's sake he stays in Boston. And you get John Morant. You don't get Zion. John Morant has been compared to Russell Westbrook more than anybody. And if we all know one thing, you don't have to be a genius to figure out, Kevin Durant didn't like playing with Russell Westbrook. Don't you think that could and everyone's their own person, the chemistry can be complete, they could be best buds, and that can make a huge difference. But doesn't that mean something? Is that somewhat of a concern for you?
No, not at all. And this is the number one reason why Westbrook came in 1 year after Durant. So they kind of came in together. They grew together. And they became all-stars together. They went to their first NBA Finals together. So Westbrook, in a weird way, felt like he was on Durant's level. Morant is a rookie. Kevin Durant, you can argue, is the best player alive today with 3 straight NBA Finals MVPs, a champion. It all goes through Durant. The rookies got to know that this team is Durant's team. I'm coming here to be a big part, a helping part, a Klay Thompson type of guy to help Curry win that championship. But I think it's a different just because of the age difference. And Morant is not, he's not going to go into this thinking that he's on Kevin Durant's level.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really good point because a lot of the conflict was whose team was it? So
yes.
That's a great point. It's a great point. Not necessarily the style of play, but yeah, it's the ego, the mentality, because Russell Westbrook was extremely talented. And I feel like they could have won together if Russell Westbrook would have known his role.
Yep.
Good point. That was a good counter argument, but back to your original question, I do think you need Zion, man. You do. Like, even if you get Morant, even if you have Durant and like they gel and they work, I don't think they win a championship. I think they could be a huge contender in the East, but I don't think they may even get over the hump to go to the finals because I think you need more than that. And Zion and Durant alone, I think that can be special. And then if you land a free agent, that could be really special where you're a legitimate contender. I'm not saying you'd win it all, but a legitimate contender. So for your Knicks future, Morant is awesome. But if Kevin Durant comes now and wants to win now, I don't think Morant wins you a championship with just Durant.
No, I don't disagree with that. I just think the Raptors this year, you're saying it's kind of Kawhi and the rest of the team. And maybe I'm overstepping, but I think Morant would be the second best player on the Raptors right now. Like his rookie year, he would be better than Lowry, Gasol at this state in his career, and Siakam. And hey, if you disagree, we can debate it. But I think Morant's that special of a point guard and that special of a playmaker and scorer that he would be already elite, the second best player. Then, the Knicks have another huge free agent capability of signing a max guy. Maybe it is Jimmy Butler. Maybe it is DeMarcus Cousins. Or I wouldn't be so against of not going for one. If we get Durant in the one and we get Morant, now maybe all you need, you sign 3 players. You kind of get guys like Paul Millsap, Marcus Morris, your favorite player in the league. You get guys like that. You know what I mean? You just get good sidekicks, JJ Redicks, and you kind of build a legitimate team. You get shooters, and you just get good pieces to win championship kind of basketball. Maybe it's not a big 3 or a big 4. It's when Durant is on his game. Like right now, he's hard to beat. Just him. And I think Morant's that special of a player, so you need a 2. I'm not saying you don't. But I think if you get the rest of your players, and the Knicks still have Emmanuel Mudiay, Mitchell Robinson, the rookie center, averaged the most blocks per minute in the NBA. So you have I can argue he's like a Clint Capella type, just without the name and the money with the contract. So we have some good pieces. And if Durant comes, I think the Knicks will be just fine.
Okay, well, only time will tell. Like you said, it is exciting that the draft is right around the corner. It's either going to be the happiest man in the world or a very upset man. So I'm hoping it goes well for your sake. And it's always good to have the Knicks good, of course. And I'm a Lakers guy. We're not getting Zion. Of course, if that happened, I'm running down the street with no shirt on, jumping in a random pool that I don't know. But that won't happen. But I'm excited. The draft will be fun. I think if Cam Reddish goes to the Hawks, I think that's a sneaky good a duo where I think if Cam develops into a really nice NBA player, him and Trae Young, a long shooter, and then of course Trae Young with limitless range, that could be a really interesting duo. And then of course if Zion goes to Trae, so we'll see. Time will tell. Or your sneaky Mavericks pick.
Oh my gosh, that would be excellent. They would really be a budding team in the West that could, if Luka can just keep on getting better, and if Porzingis can stay healthy, and then just add that once in a generation type of wing, Dallas could be really, really good.
All right, Dave, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. Of course, if you have any other topics you want to hit on, please go ahead. But off script, it's just a one-word response. Who wins the series between the Raptors and the 76ers if you had to choose right now?
Raptors.
Boston and Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Warriors and Rockets.
Rockets.
Okay, and then Portland and Denver.
Denver.
Okay, I agree with the Milwaukee. Probably agree with the Toronto. Disagree with Golden State. The Denver one's actually the hardest one for me, believe it or not. That's tricky because I want to go with Dame, but like you said, I think the Nuggets play better as a unit, just very deep. I would probably lean towards Denver too. So one disagreement.
Denver is the best. They're the second best home court advantage, and they played 2 games in Portland. One they won, and the second they lost in 4 overtimes. So we know they can win in Portland. So with 3 games left, 2 of them in Denver, and that's all you need. And if you need to steal that game in Portland, they show they can do it. It's weird. I know it's probably maybe going to go to the 7th game, but I really like Denver. I think Denver's almost of a lock. I think Milwaukee's a lock. You know, I've been saying the Milwaukee Bucks are going to the NBA Finals since February. So I think the Milwaukee's a lock. I'm interested to see. I just think Kawhi right now he's playing better than anyone in the world. So I would go with that best guy, kind of like LeBron did to Boston. And if I had to bet both of my kids' college education, yes, I picked the Warriors, but I'm going with it. I'm staying true. I predicted the Rockets would upset the Warriors, and I'm sticking with it. I got to stick to my guns. The Rockets will upset this. Yeah, it's a great time. NBA postseason. There is one more thing, but did you have anything else on the playoffs on those takes?
Nope, the floor is yours.
Okay, no, I just want to talk about Thursday night, Max. One of the biggest MMA organizations. We go to it all the time. Our main man, Dean Toole, Island Fights 56. The main event of Chase Sherman and Rashad Jackson. Rashad Jackson's been on the Locked In Sports podcast before. I talked to him today. Max, he's pumped. This is he talks so much about first round management and him. He was just so I loved his story. We talked about just so emotional and so I want to stand next to him during the big fight scene of Game of Thrones. He's just a guy you would fight for, right? And I'm so excited to go to this card. I will be out there. It's in Orange Beach, Alabama. Island Fights 56. Max, it's going to be a great show, brother.
Oh, yeah. Dean always puts on the best shows. Him and Mitchell are doing such a great job. And when we talked about it with Ramsey, just a whole bunch of people, nothing but good things when you see people put Florida talent on the map and then to get them really high into the UFC. And I think that's what makes a great promoter is how you're able to develop your fighters. And both obviously have a huge resume and a very deep resume of developing fighters. And that's what I really love to see. And you hit on it, first round management. And I think this fight for Rashawn, I think my line of this podcast seems to be coming out party. I think if he beats Chase Sherman, this is his coming out party. And you and I are aware of him, but if he beats Chase Sherman and on the main event of Island Fights, this is where people start to notice first round management, a great story, great guy, great physique. I think this is where he's going to really start to blow up.
Cuzzo, I got it locked in that you will blow your mind. Are you ready for it, or you still got more stuff? I can talk to you all night long. What you want?
Go ahead. Give me a locked in.
My locked in is that and I don't want to predict one or the other because I will be there live and I don't want a heavyweight fighter upset with me. But if Rashawn Jackson beats Chase Sherman in the main event at Island Fights 56 on UFC Fight Pass, his next fight will be in the UFC. No, I think he's that high of a prospect, first round management, main event level. They're going to see him do absolute great things in the octagon. His age, the way he fights, the gym behind him, the agency behind him, under the Island Fights umbrella. When you fight in the main events of Island Fights, ask Mike Davis, you go to the UFC.
No, that's a very good locked in. I agree with you. Both fighters, obviously Chase Sherman, a UFC vet. This is a key, crucial fight in their career. It could be the biggest fight of their career. Up until now, of course. I mean, who knows what happens down the line. One of them may fight for a UFC championship. But for right now, I think this is the biggest fight of their career. I got it locked in. It may seem obvious, but I really think it's bet your money locked in. Whole point of the show here is this is the last time you'll see the four people together in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and Tobias Harris. I'm not sure which one would go. I would say Jimmy Butler. I think Ben and Embiid stay with the 76ers right now, and I don't think they get rid of any of them. So I think they'll stay for right now. I do think they will break up eventually, but I don't think they keep both Tobias and Jimmy, and I think Jimmy's going to want the max, and if they lose to Toronto, I don't think he's worth the max for them right now. And now if they win and they were to go to the finals, then he obviously has more leverage and makes a huge case to deserve the max with them. But I don't think that's what they need right now, so they won't do it. And I think he'll leave. Well, they may do it, but I think Jimmy leaves ultimately. And then Tobias may stay. But this is the last time you're going to see this borderline 4 All-Stars together in Philadelphia.
Wow. Okay. I don't think you're crazy on that one. I don't. I think a lot of money, a lot of egos, and usually that doesn't work out at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So, Dave, this is another good one. It's available on what?
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's everywhere. You know, social media. You know where to get your stuff. Guys, if you're at the gym, if you're ready to train for a fight, if you're cooking, you're doing laundry with the family, you're hooping, whatever. Listen to the Locked In Sports Podcast. And like I said, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, keep this momentum going. April of last month was our best month ever. We're just continuing to grow and climb the ladder.
Couldn't have said it any better, Dave.
Oh, that's why I get paid the big bucks.
Always a pleasure. I don't even got to look at what number this is, but we're starting to get up there. We got to start planning our episode 200.
Wow. You want to do something big for that one?
I'm thinking so. I'm thinking something special. I can't say it on the podcast. It's going to have to be an off-air conversation.
If it's Vegas or bust.
Sounds good, Dave. And like always, stay locked in.